Look, up in the sky. It's a bird. It's a plane. No, it's Lois and Clark, The New Adventures of Superman on Blu-ray. You guys, I never in a million years thought that we would get this show on Blu-ray. Of course, we have this on Blu-ray because of the 2025 arrival of the James Gunn Superman movie. And Warner Brothers is looking to leverage all of the Superman things in their catalog that they have not already recently trotted out on Blu-ray or on 4K, which is the case for the Christopher Reeve movies. So Lois and Clark gets the full HD Blu-ray treatment here, and I have things to say about it. Now, I'm a long time, I love this series. I'm a longtime fan of the show. I have all 4 seasons. It's a 4-season show. I have all 4 seasons on DVD, and I watched it new when that pilot hit in 1993. I mean, it was huge. Looking back at it, you know, the life of the show, it ran out of steam when it was basically Superman meets moonlighting. You know, you can't have Superman fighting international incident, you know, like going to shut down nuclear reactors and all that stuff and going to space on a weekly basis. So it's fairly rooted in Metropolis and in relationship stuff. I actually really like that about it because it had a slightly smaller scope. It was episodic television, and it really did follow the formula of moonlighting. Bruce Willis and Sybil Shepherd, where it was like, will they, won't they? They've got a ton of romantic chemistry, but they can't be together, can they? And then when the thing gets resolved, well, that's the end of the show. These shows can't have a very long life because of the way that they're conceived, but it was a really good show at its time. And one of the things that's carried over from the first season Blu-ray, first season DVD is the original pilot presentation. We do have the introduction by Deborah Joy Levine, who was the showrunner, the creator of this series, talking about how she showed this to San Diego Comic-Con audiences, and they just went nuts for it because we had not really had I hesitate to say it's Superman for adults, but I mean, that is kind of what it is when you look back at the history of Superman on TV. So we had The Adventures of Superman, that's clearly for children. We had the Superboy series in the 1980s. There's been various cartoons. By the way, check out my interview with John Hames Newton right here on this channel, the very first, the first season Superboy in that show. And we've had all the animated series, but then this comes along, and this is really for grown-ups with some kid appeal, really following on the premise, the promise of the 1990 Flash series with John Wesley Shipp. So it's rooted in its time. I have a ton of nostalgia for the time, and I popped this in. I did not plan to watch this series, but I popped it in just to check the quality, and I've watched like 6 episodes in just a little over 24 hours. So it just pulled me right back in. All the love that I have for Superman is my favorite superhero at this point. He wasn't always. I was like an X-Men kid and a Marvel kid. But now, as a middle-aged man, Superman, that's the thing that we need. And this really does capture it's campy. It's cheesy in how naive and how optimistic it is. But that's what we need. That's what I want from my Superman. So that's what this delivers. And then, of course, Smallville follows this not too many years after that and becomes a whole other thing, Superman for a younger generation. I am so glad that this is on Blu-ray, but I do have notes. So I was concerned about how it was going to look because I have these DVDs. This show has never looked good. It was always a product of its time, 1993 to 1997. Now, it was shot on 35 millimeter film. So they have been able to go back and take that 35 millimeter film footage and restore it, polish it up, remove some of the imperfections. And when that's what we're seeing on screen, that 35 millimeter footage, it looks so beautiful. It's, of course, filmic because that's where film comes from. That's what 35 millimeter is. It's cinema, right? So it looks so cinematic. But, and it is a huge but, there's a huge asterisk by this statement about the video quality. The effects shots, and it's a show about Superman, so there's effects all throughout the thing, were done in standard definition. Actually, they look lower than standard definition. I'm not even sure what the resolution is on the visual effects shots, but there's a lot of them. And they're presented in standard definition. You will see a visible drop in quality every time there's a visual effect. And sometimes it's not even for a visual effect. Sometimes it's not even if Superman or Clark is doing something in super speed or flying or whatever. Sometimes it's just like a scene transition from one scene to the next where they do the wipe. They'll do a lot of wipes, wipe from one side of the screen to the other. Even those often go back to standard definition for that shot. So what I assume is, when Paramount did their very, very expensive restorations for Star Trek The Next Generation, they went back and redid a lot of those special effects, because you can't have something that's in 1080p and then you drop to 480. You can't have that noticeable drop in quality without it jarring you. But this show doesn't have the budget that Star Trek has. Also, Star Trek was a cautionary tale for every company in the film restoration business, because it took them years and years, I want to say upwards of 10 years, to make their money back on that experiment. They spent so much money that they did not get back for a very long time. And every other company is like, well, don't spend too much money on these things because you might not get it back. Lois and Clark doesn't have that kind of a fan base built into it to warrant the added expense of restoring all of this stuff into HD. So what we're left with is a lot of HD footage that then cuts to a standard definition shot. And it's like, whoa! So I went back to do some spot checking for the first, the DVDs. And it doesn't stand out as much because the show always looks bad. The pilot, the opening shot of the pilot, it's the cape, really. It's the Superman logo is what it is. And it is so pixelated on the DVD. It is so pixelated that it looks like the internet circa 1995. I mean, it looks like I'm playing Doom, the first Doom, or something like that, Duke Nukem. I mean, it is really pixelated and jaggy. That's how that looked. That's how it was made. So I do notice that for some of the opening credits, I believe they've reconstructed the opening credits and done new title graphics just to raise it up to HD standards. But there's some things they just don't have. They're not going to go back and redo the original shots. They're not going to go back, and I think probably they've lost some of those shots, some of the footage that they wanted to cut to, which is why we have some of these weird standard definition scenes. I mean, it's a lot. I don't want to undersell it. It's like 5% of every episode. A couple of minutes out of every episode probably is in standard definition. But you have to look at it and be like, well, it's this or it's nothing. You have to understand this is what we have to work with. So under those parameters, I'm really grateful. And like I said, it has not been a barrier for me enjoying this series again, because like I said, I wasn't going to watch the show again. I know the show. I wasn't going to watch it again, but it just makes me feel that nostalgia. It takes me back to a time when my Superman fandom was just like the comics and then what was happening on television. Superman was everywhere in the best possible way. He was on the cover of TV Guide and things like that. So the show for me absolutely holds up. If you're 22 years old watching this and like, is this a gritty take on Superman? No, it's not at all. It's a sweet, goofy, lighthearted, romantic take on Superman, and that's what I love about it, because there's not a whole lot of this anywhere else. In fact, this is really the only time that this was done to this level. The Superman and Lois, which I've also talked about here, is a great series where we have family man Superman and Lois together, but they're already together. This is the tension phase. Let's talk about the packaging. Unfortunately, Warner Brothers has decided to use, now we do have a cardboard box that this goes into, so that's kind of cool, but they've decided to use this, I call these brick packaging. It's just a big old brick of Blu-rays, where the downside of these two, collectors and fans have said over and over and over again that we want individual cases. Give me season 1, 2, 3, and 4 in their own Blu-ray cases. They're what is this? I think they're 5 discs. 1, 2, 3, 5 discs per season. The seasons are color-coded, so that's kind of cool. Season 1 has the blue. Season 2 has the red. Season 3 has green, which I can't show you because I'm working on a green screen. And then Season 4 has this, like, purpley blue kind of a thing. And the menus do, if you're curious, the menus do carry over this art. Each season had its own key art, so they've kept those menus. So Season 1 looks like that. Season 2 uses this. This is actually, I believe this is the same photo session that this came from. season 3 and season 4. So they do show some consistency there. But we don't want this. We don't want our discs overlapping. It's kind of difficult. You want to get to disc 2, you have to take disc 1 out. Thankfully, nothing is stacked on top of each other. Oh, here's another huge problem with this. They just add however many of these pages, I call them pages, how many of these pages they need. It lifts right out. There's nothing securing this in here. I'm fine with it if this was a budget set, but this set's a $100 retail price, and I don't feel like this is $100 packaging. I don't feel like this is collector's edition packaging. So that's a criticism. They've also left off a couple of bonus features. They've carried over most everything, but not quite everything. So we've got From Rivals to Romance, the making of Lois and Clark. That's carried over. The pilot presentation, which you've already talked about. Deborah Joy Levine introducing, talking about showing the pilot to the Comic-Con gang. 32 years ago is over the recording of this, back when it was actually about comics at Comic-Con. Crazy, right? Pilot episode commentary with Dean Cain. There were more Dean Cain commentaries. This is what's interesting to me. So they've carried over the pilot commentary with Dean Cain and Deborah Joy Levine, but he did more, and they're not here. And I'm wondering, did he say something? I'd have to go back and review these older commentaries, and I don't think I want to do that. It's quite possible. Here's something that people don't talk about. Everybody always assumes the worst. Those commentaries might not have been cleared to include in this. You have to license this stuff from, everything has to be cleared. Even though Warner Brothers commissioned those commentaries all those years ago, there may be some legality tying those things up. Music has to be cleared. They've dropped that off. They've dropped off some of the commentaries. There weren't, I think there's 2 or 3. I think there's 1 or 2 that's not here. They've dropped off the interviews with Dean Cain and Terry Hatcher. This is all, it's very EPK stuff, electronic press kit. Nothing revelatory, just promotion. From season 2, I think we've lost commentary on Season's Greetings by Dean Cain, but everything else is carried over. For season 3, we've lost, they've carried over Lois and Clark, A History of Romance, and the Man of Steel Trivia Challenge, which is cool. I mean, it's trivia, that's fun. But they've left off Look Up in the Sky, The Amazing Story of Superman. Now, that was made didn't that come out around the time of Superman Returns? The Brandon Routh movie with the Bryan Singer Superman movie. I believe they made a documentary about Superman at that time, and they promoted it on everything, including on this DVD. But that's not here, and I don't miss it. It was excerpts anyway. It wasn't the whole documentary. And then season 4 has Kryptonian Chronology. Dean Cain hosts an interactive history of the Superman timeline. That's not here either. But the trivia challenge, all the interview stuff that I've mentioned, that's all here. I think so. Going by that, I think we've lost 1 commentary. I think 1 has not been carried over, the Christmas one. I'm happy with it. It's not a home run. It's not a knockout of the park, right? But it is Superman on Blu-ray with some caveats, and that's a cause for celebration. Because I mean, really. One of the things I've learned about my audience is when I talk about things like this and I point out the things that are not up to what we want, people get really angry at the studios, and people also say, I'm going to wait until they fix it and get it right. And I want to be clear. This is it for Lois and Clark. I cannot imagine this getting a 4K release, maybe in 5 or 10 years, maybe down the line, but I really suspect this is the last physical media stop for Lois and Clark. And they've already spent the money on the restorations. They're not going to spend more money on more restorations. This is the thing. This is what we're going to get. So you can keep your DVDs, which look... My joke is that some of this stuff always looks like it's been buried in the backyard for a long time. And when you dig it up, like it looked fine on a square, on a 4x3, the square television that we were watching back in 1993 in standard definition with the scan lines, it looked fine for that. Now in the HD era, the original DVDs look really bad, and it needed to be refreshed. And I'm glad that it does look refreshed with this. The only downside is that those visual effects shots look so bad. They look worse now by contrast, because at least with the DVDs, it just sort of flows. One scene flows into the other. Now you're like, whoa, oh, it's jarring. It's like, whoa, oh. It's not that bad, but I mean, it is really jarring. It does get better as the season goes on. I popped in some of the other seasons just to scan through them and see how those visual effect shots hold up. They look a little bit better. And it's like maybe they've been upscaled. Maybe they changed the way that those visual shots were actually composed and comprised together in the 90s, because they don't look HD, but they look a little bit better than they do in the first season. I love this series. I'm just gonna keep rocking with it because it's Superman. It's warm, it's fuzzy, it's optimistic, it's sweet, it's romantic. It's got the superheroing. It's got some of the supervillains. It's also got some character actor appearances that are fun for me to go back and see again. So that's going to do it. I'm going to put a link in the description of this video where you can pick this up, and if you do, you will be supporting Serial at Midnight and getting something cool for yourself in the process, something cool for your shelf. Let's talk about Superman. Let's talk about Lois and Clark in the comments below. Favorite episodes, favorite guest stars. This is from that whole like DC TV 1.0, right? When Mark Hamill's doing the trickster on the Flash show, which was over by this point. But there was something so pure, and we were so excited about it because we had never had Superman for grown-ups. We never had the Flash for grown-ups. And it was such a fun time to be a fan. Let's talk about it in the comments below. Thank you guys. I appreciate you. Take care. Till next time, I will catch you later.